This is a story of two adopted cats, Mojo Littlejohn Klimek and George, nicknamed Georgie, Klimek. Both Mojo and Georgie had challenging episodes in their lives. For both, a special food diet has been implemented. This video is about one aspect of their special diet and the reasons for it.
Mojo came to us with 3 of his 4 canines broken. He was in pain. Before even bringing Mojo into our home, we had our veterinarian provide immediate care.
Georgie's problems began when he tangled with a blue-tailed skink, which are highly poisonous to cats if the tail, easily shed, is eaten. We nursed Georgie on chicken soup fed through a baby's feeding syringe for 2 weeks. We nearly lost Georgie, but after a month of continued special care, he recovered substantially, but was, and still is, very thin. Now let me discuss Mojo's particular situation. In June of 2012, we adopted Mojo from the Build and Ark Rescue Center in LJ, Georgia. Here is Mojo in the rescue center. It was clear from the get-go that Mojo was a very gentle and loving cat. He was comfortable in being held. The first thing we did was take Mojo to the veterinarian for a full examination.
Mojo was neutered and defleed. He was given a rabies shot. Mites in his ears were eliminated. He had 3 broken teeth pulled. He was given pain medication and medication for diarrhea. The vet estimated that Mojo was 2 years old.
Mojo Littlejohn's name was derived as follows.
Littlejohn comes from the name of the founder of the rescue center, Susan Littlejohn. Mojo is self-confidence, self-assuredness. Mojo is personal magnetism. Mojo will make one seem and feel sexy, virile, appealing, and invincible, and in control.
Every few weeks, my wife and I purchase a fully cooked chicken from the local grocery store. Usually half the chicken is for us, while the other half is for Mojo and George. Today, my grandsons Matt and Drew are helping me with the task of preparing the chicken for Mojo and George. Needless to say, Mojo and George love a meal served with chicken and are anxious to get the preparation process underway. By seeing Mojo attack the chicken with a vengeance, no one should question that cats love a good meal of roasted chicken. Now, Mojo's approach to the chicken is just not going to work very well for him, as you can see. Here's where we step in to give him a little assistance of our own. The assistance begins with my 2 grandsons working together to rip the chicken apart into smaller pieces. They will remove all the meat and skin from the bones. So on one side we have a bowl of chicken meat chunks, and on the other side we have a plate of bones. Now we are ready to move into the second phase of the chicken preparation process. Matt and Drew begin placing the chicken into the top tray of our meat grinder. With the tray almost full, Drew will now start the meat grinder. Here are the results. Nice chewable pieces of chicken. Drew puts a handful of the chicken on Mojo's plate. Mojo doesn't hesitate and digging right in. The chicken will last for several days as one part of the cat's daily diet. I keep the chicken refrigerated in a tightly sealed container to keep the chicken moist. We now bring George to the table. Let's see his reaction. Uh-oh, Mojo's plate is clean. Let's see his reaction now. Will he steal from George? No, Mojo is a very respectful cat. He gets a second handful. Mojo finishes his plate again. and decides to investigate how George is doing. He decides to return to his plate and clean it up a little better. Do I see Drew coming with some more food? Cleaning the meat grinder only takes a few minutes. Off comes the food tray. I am now removing the grinding mechanism. The movable parts easily tumble out into my hands. I fish out the cutting wheel. I thoroughly rinse all parts before putting them into the dishwasher. Now, 7 hours later, it's time for dinner. Without hesitation, Mojo digs right in. Now, as you can see, George is a little more fickle. But with just a little coaxing, he too joins Mojo in a feast of ground chicken. It isn't necessary to have an electric grinder. A hand grinder does just as well. Mojo seemed to have a special interest in politics this year. Incidentally, his favorite candidate did win. After a hearty meal, Mojo does like to be groomed. After lunch, one can often find Mojo sacking out in a comfortable snooze. Here Mojo blends in with the white chair. Sometimes he snoozes right on my lap, making me immobile for a time. However, before dozing off, there may be a quick trip to the Pussycat Lounge. George follows me from room to room all day long. George takes a rest while I watch TV. George and I rest together for an afternoon nap. George inspects my work as I lay tile in the bathroom. George likes to travel around the house wrapped around my neck. George acts like Santa to our other 3 cats. On colder days, George likes to wear his sweater. George inspects a tree as we stroll through the woods. On warmer days, George wears a half sweater. George has a variety of sweaters to choose from. George is one of the few cats who will walk on a leash. I didn't have to train him, he's a natural. George and I spent some quiet time together on the beach.